Now, in order to make Kane Academy possible, all of this SGS and ICL material needs to be generated, and we're going to be doing that through what we call the Kane Academy Office, or CAO. Now, who's going to be involved in actually making this stuff? Well, it's basically going to be three groups of people, and those are the students, the MEF, or Medical Education Fellow, who manages the Kane Academy Office, and faculty. So what are the jobs of each? Well, the students are mainly going to generate material, making the videos and questions and other activities that are going to be used by students in class and at home, and they'll base what they make on the faculty lectures and PowerPoint slides from prior years. Now, you can think of the MEF as more of a content manager, who works directly with the students to assist them in making the content and manage the teams of students that we'll talk about in a minute, but who also works directly with the faculty to deal with the higher level things that the students don't really get to see. The faculty in all of this will be the content expert and executive producer, so I'll write down content expert here as well as EP for executive producer. Faculty will be responsible for making sure that any material generated by students is factually correct, that it's in the correct order, that things are emphasized and de-emphasized as they need to be, basically making sure that the content is ready to go to be used by students. Faculty are also going to have a huge role when it comes to the in-class learning, or ICL portion of Kane Academy. Because as good as those home SGS materials can be, the faculty will determine whether the students find the in-class activities worthwhile, since they'll be working directly together. So what we come up with is a schematic that looks like this, where we have the MEF working directly with students to help them produce content, as well as work directly with faculty to manage those high-level items, and we also have a connection between students and faculty, who will be working directly together to make all of this SGS and ICL content that'll be known as Kane Academy. So what's the actual step-by-step process to go ahead and make all of this SGS and ICL content? Well, in order to do that, let's clear some space on our board here, and let's keep the jobs on the page and just minimize them down here on the left-hand side so we can keep them in mind while we're going through the steps. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll use this diagram to do so, and we'll go ahead and follow it down and to the right as we make our way to produce some content. To get started, the first thing that has to happen is an interested faculty member has to approach the Kane Academy office, and this does a couple of things. It allows the faculty member to meet with the MEF in order to create a course timeline to decide when things are going to be done and when the finished content is going to be produced by. And it also allows them to establish a level of involvement for the faculty member. Does the faculty want to meet every single day or every week, or do they just want to be notified at the end when everything has been produced? So the next thing that has to happen is to go ahead and create teams of students. So I'll just go ahead and write in this box, create teams. And this will be done by the MEF, and it will organize the students into groups of 3 or 4. Once these groups have been created, it'll be the job of the students, with input from the faculty, to go ahead and create what I'm calling a content outline. And before any material is actually generated, this will be just a schematic of how the content could be organized or how it could be arranged, in what order, what things to emphasize or de-emphasize, just to give kind of a broad strokes overview of how the content might look in the new Kane Academy format. Once that's done, the content is actually generated to its full extent. So in this box, I'll put content generated. And this is where the students will go ahead and actually make those videos, write those text summaries or find that appropriate perfect journal article, and go ahead and arrange it and put it in order and make everything to its fullest extent. When everything's arranged, we'll have the opportunity for revisions. So in this second to last box, I'll write revisions. And this is the opportunity to go over what's been produced and move things around or fix any factual errors that have come up, and basically just get the content ready to go. Now, as these revisions are being made, we generate a kind of loop here between making revisions and going back and fixing the content, and making more revisions and going back and fixing and generating new things. So this last couple of steps here, this is kind of a loop in which things are continually being generated and revised until you come up with something that is a finished product. And once the finished product has been developed, the last step is just to go ahead and deploy and use all of this content and all of these videos that have been generated to be used. Now, it's important to remember that faculty have a huge role to play throughout all of this, obviously in the beginning, approaching the CAO and getting involved in the first place, But as content begins to be generated, they'll have the opportunity to review what's been produced in order to give their okay and give the go-ahead to proceed to the next step. So once the content outline has been generated, faculty should have the opportunity to double check what's been done and make sure things are in the right order and factually correct and emphasize to the appropriate degree. And then once the content has been fully generated, they're going to be heavily involved in making revisions. So I'll add a purple loop arrow here to show that they're really involved in this step here. And of course, once these revisions have been made, they will give their final go-ahead, which will say that now this content has been done, I've given my okay, and we can go ahead and deploy it so that students can use it as both SGS and ICL. So you can see that this process is extremely collaborative, involving a lot of back and forth between students, faculty, and the MEF. And it's vital to the process to have a lot of talk between everyone involved, so that any errors or confusions can be dealt with as they arise or avoided in the first place.